2022 has not been a good look for wrestling at all. This has to be the first time in a long time where there's been a long string of controversial stories in such a short amount of time. To be quite honest, the news outside of the ring has been more entertaining than the wrestling shows themselves. The summer of 2022 is going to be remembered for all the wrong reasons. The WWE specifically has its hands full right now. Vince is over there slinging peanut Titan towers, and the injuries are just starting to stack up pretty heavy. The WWE is currently getting pieced up legally and on social media. Normally, I try to stay neutral when it comes to controversial topics until the full details come out. But today, we aren't focusing on Hush Money McMahon. We're going to focus on the Sasha Banks and Naomi nonsense that's been suppressed by all the other news that's been coming out. I wasn't going to, but I've been seeing a lot of really trash takes on social media, and I figured I'd put my 2 cents in. The main issue that I've seen is that fans haven't been looking at the situation from an objective standpoint. That's what we're gonna do. Granted, this is a new channel in the wrestling YouTube scene, and will probably only be seen by like 10 people. But to all 10 of you beautiful individuals, let's talk about it. Okay, let's start by addressing the elephant in the room. The women's tag titles suck. They've sucked since they were introduced and only served to get more women on the roster TV time. Of course, this would be a good thing if the teams that were put together weren't women who had little to no chemistry together in some cases. The women's tag titles were the bathroom break matches of WWE pay-per-views. Most of the time, the matches hardly got any kind of reaction. The women definitely tried, but the way the tag division was presented and treated early on, it killed any chance of the titles getting over and having meaning. For a while, the WWE didn't even care about the men's tag titles, so we were expecting them to care about the women's? The idea was doomed from the start. The only tag team that had any kind of relevance was Bayley and Sasha Banks. They had legitimate star power and made the tag division kinda interesting. Unfortunately, the competition was lacking. I'm not saying that as an insult to the other women who held the titles. They all tried to get over, but the booking just failed them. WrestleMania 38 came around, and the creative team was trying to figure out something interesting to do with the tag titles. Sasha Banks and Naomi were free, and they decided to group them back together and make the match a fatal 4-way. I'm not gonna lie, the team felt a bit forced, but I was kinda feeling it. In my opinion, the 2 teams that made sense to win that match at WrestleMania were either Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley or Sasha Banks and Naomi. I was at WrestleMania Live, and the crowd was heavy into both teams. Naomi and Sasha have great chemistry as a tag team. I was pretty happy when they won at WrestleMania, and I was hoping they'd be the building blocks to help that tag division. Everything was good, until it wasn't. From what was reported, Sasha and Naomi were being booked to have individual championship matches at Hell in a Cell to put both champions over, and they weren't having it. All they wanted to do was somehow make the women's tag titles mean something. Obviously, their meetings with the suits backstage went south, they dropped the titles on Johnny Peen Dealer's desk, and here we are. The WWE is notorious for pissing off its wrestlers, and the way this all went down was completely unnecessary. We only know what was reported, but from what was reported, this situation should have been handled differently. Which then begs the question, were Sasha Banks and Naomi justified in taking their ball and going home? Like I said earlier, we're speaking objectively here, so before I say this, please, just listen. From a business standpoint, they were in the wrong on their side of the situation. At the end of the day, you're under contract and you have to fulfill your contractual duties. Vince can be very stubborn. He has been for decades, but we already knew that. Walking out on the company as champions during a live Monday Night Raw that you were booked for isn't a very good look. Especially in Sasha's case, because this isn't the first time she's walked out on the company. However, at the same time, I applaud them for sticking up for themselves. If what was reported is true, then the way they were talked to was unprofessional on WWE's part. Imagine putting your all into something that you're passionate about to make it feel important, and your boss just shooting down your ideas while telling you to fix your attitude. In life, you shouldn't be afraid to speak about something that you disagree with. It shouldn't be seen as selfish to walk out of a company when your bosses disrespect you. Luckily, they have some name value. If it had been anyone else lower on the card, this news wouldn't have blown up as much as it has. The WWE should definitely be ashamed of themselves for acting impulsively and putting out there that Sasha Banks and Naomi were the problem. When walkouts like this happen so many times, maybe it's time to look at the common denominator in these situations and realize that the WWE is usually the problem, not the talent. I'll leave you with this. The whole issue should have been handled differently than it was. If the reports are true and Sasha and Naomi have been released, then it'll be a terrible look for the WWE. Sasha will be fine. She has her many annoying supporters that will follow her wherever. She has a few ties to Hollywood and can easily show up on any rival wrestling company's television. Love her or hate her, she has a load of star power. The only thing that I ask of you guys, which is kind of the reason I made this video, is to not forget about Naomi. Unfortunately, she's not as big of a star as Sasha is, and my fear is that she'll be the one that suffers the most from all of this. So please, if you're gonna support Sasha, support Naomi as well. She's an amazing wrestler who doesn't get enough credit for the work she puts in. But moral of the story, I feel that the WWE is at fault for the situation. Vince El Pino Slingo McMahon should apologize to them and make this right. He's probably not going to, but it would make things so much better if he did. So yeah, do you agree or disagree? Let me know.